Hi St John's, it's Darren here. You might remember that I sometimes come and do assemblies on a Wednesday morning. I love leading worship with you guys, and I asked Mr Watson if I could do one more before the end of term. So I'm here today to share a few thoughts with you. And I wondered today, have you learned a new skill? While we've all been off school and off work and doing things at home, I wondered if you'd done something new, something you'd learnt that you couldn't do before. Maybe you've taken up a new sport or an activity that you can do in the back garden or in the house, or maybe you started playing a new instrument, or you've had time to practice an instrument that you'd got at home, or maybe it's just a new skill that you didn't think you could do. In our house, we've taken up bread making, which I know a lot of people have done. We usually buy our bread from a shop, but we decided to give it a go and see what it would be like. And we've had lots and lots of fun. We like baking in our house, but we like making bread now. It's good fun. And I thought I'd share a few thoughts about making bread in my last assembly with you this year. So the first thing you need, I've learned these things, the first thing you need if you're going to make bread is a good bowl. And this is my favourite bowl. It's a big silver bowl, and this is the bowl I use to make bread. So you need to have a good bowl. And then the biggest ingredient you need inside the bowl is flour. So you need to take your flour and you need to weigh it out carefully, and you put that in the bowl. And then you very carefully measure out a small bit of sugar, a small amount of salt, and an amount of water. And they all go in the bowl together, and you need one more special ingredient. And that's really the ingredient I want to talk to you about today. And it's the smallest ingredients of all. Can you see it's all in there? And actually, if you listen, you can hear it moving about inside. I'm not going to open it now because it will go everywhere. But this is a thing called yeast. This is dried yeast. And this you open up and you carefully put with the flour and the sugar and the salt and the water and maybe a little bit of oil. And you mix it all together and some amazing things happen. And so we've enjoyed starting this process off and put it all in together, and then you add the yeast, and that's where the magic thing happens. And that's what I want to share with you today, that actually something that's quite small, something you might not think is very important in all of those ingredients, is the thing that makes the difference. So that was a picture of where we've mixed all that stuff together, and the yeast and the sugar and the flour and the salt and the water have all gone together, and it's been mixed into one big piece of dough, and we're now on the way to making bread. But it's really important, I've learned, if you don't put the yeast and the salt and the sugar in really, really carefully, actually they can damage each other and you end up with not very good bread. So the first thing I've learned is actually yeast is brilliant, but you have to look after it. The second thing I've learned is you have to put some effort in. When you've got your dough in the way you've just seen it, you have to do a thing called kneading, where you take the big lump of dough out of the bowl and you put it on a surface with some flour and you push it and you pull it and you punch it and you stretch it. And if you do that for about 10 or 15 minutes, you're absolutely shattered. But you've done the bread a lot of good. You've helped the yeast inside the bread start to develop. And so once you've done that, you roll it back into a ball and you put it back into your bowl and you cover it with a cloth and you leave it, and then something amazing happens. So did you see in that picture? That was my dough that we'd kneaded for a long time and we'd put into the bread tins and we'd left. And it grew and it grew and it grew. And by putting in the effort with the yeast and the dough, it started to do something special. And we learnt that the longer we can knead the dough, the harder we knead the dough, really put some effort in, then actually that would make a difference into what the bread would be like. Now you're going to see a picture of our final bread, and I hope you think it's pretty good. What do you think? Do you think that was all right? We really enjoyed it. It was really, really tasty. And we learnt actually if we put the yeast in the right way, then it helps it to develop and will be much better bread. If you put the effort in when you knead it, if you really make an effort in what you do, then the bread becomes better. And also, if you just give it a bit of time, if you let it rest, if you let it develop over time, nothing happens quickly, then the bread ends up really, really good. And it all starts with that little bit of yeast. And I want to remind you of something that it says in the Bible. It says this in the Gospel of Luke, a book written by one of Jesus' closest friends, and it says this: "What shall I compare the kingdom of God to? It's like yeast." Remember, we've just been doing yeast in bread, that a woman took and mixed into about 30 kilograms of flour until it worked all the way through the dough. So even in Bible times, they use yeast to make some of their bread. And I want to encourage you that actually we can be like yeast. We might only be one person, or we might only be young, or we might not think we're very, very important, but actually we're just like that yeast. And if you make sure you try and do your best and do the right thing and make good choices and good decisions, then actually you can develop and you can grow as a human being, and you can be a great person. And if you put some effort in, like that kneading of the dough, if you knead yourself, if you look after yourself and you try your best at school and you do your best at home and you just try to develop your skills, then again you become a much stronger and better person. And the final thing, the important thing, is to have a bit of time. We don't expect to be a fully grown human, a fully grown adult, by the time we're 5 or by the time we're 10. We know it takes time. And actually, we've all had a lot of time on our hands recently with the lockdown. And I want to encourage you that actually that's fine. You're allowed to have some time. And whether you are in year 2 or year 5, or whether you're in year 6 and you're about to move up to big school, we all have time to develop and grow. And you will develop more skills if you make the effort and you really try, and you will develop skills in being a human being. And some of the things, those things that we've got up on the wall in school, all those different things, drive and teamwork and all of those sorts of things, actually all of those things come from putting in a bit of effort. And then just have some time. Have some time for you to develop and grow as yourself. Just like the yeast needs time to develop, you need time to develop. And year 6, I probably won't see you again because you're going up to big school. But I hope one day in the future sometime, maybe we bump into each other somewhere around Coventry and you can say, "Do you remember me? I was in year 6 at St John's and you said that I needed time and energy and effort and good decisions to become an adult. Well, here I am, I'm an adult." That'd be brilliant, wouldn't it? And for all you little ones who are coming back to St John's next year, we look forward to seeing you. Have a great summer. And don't forget, you might be small like the yeast, but you can make an absolutely brilliant, bigger adult like the yeast can make a big loaf of bread. Bless you all, and see you again in the new year.